It's about 5 days now since the peace of the little-known town of Dapchi in Yobe State was ruptured as terrorists stormed the government girls' science and technical college in the town and reportedly kidnapped some of the girls. While the government and security agencies continue to assess the situation and search for the missing girls, Nigerians have condemned the action of the terrorists and called on the government and indeed all Nigerians to rally round and support the families at this trying time. That is why we are continuing our follow-up on developments regarding the situation in Dapchi on Nigeria today. I am Joy Usiago. Thanks for joining us. Now, joining us to discuss this developing incident is the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garba Abari, who coincidentally is from Yobe State. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Joy. Good evening.
And with us is our regular security risk management analyst, Kabir Adamu. Nice to see you again, Kabir.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Abari, what information do you have concerning the situation in Dapchi at this moment?
Well, I think the situation has not been dramatically different from what has been in the public domain so far. What is incontrovertible is the fact that some of the school girls are still missing. The school has ordered for head count. The exact number of missing students are yet to be determined, basically because we don't want a situation where conflicting information would come to the public domain. Having already started on this faltering scenario. You know, the Yobe State government at the time was reported to have said the girls had been found. Then later, the Director General of the Press and Publicity Directorate of the for the Yobe State government came out to issue an apology to say that they had been misled into issuing out that statement. The federal government has sent out a very large delegation yesterday comprising of 3 ministers, that will be Defense, the Ministry of Information, and the Minister of State Foreign Affairs, who incidentally is also from Yobe. The security agencies are working very closely with the Yobe State government. I think what the situation is still remains hazy as to what exactly is the number of those that are still missing. What we keep saying, what we keep doing is actually a tap on the developments as they keep unfolding. Those parents whose children are missing have all now come out to show themselves and to say, I have not seen my daughter, or I have not seen ours, or we have seen, or some have seen so and so person. But to exactly the situation, what the situation is now, I think we will have to wait a little more so that there will be a very definite statement that would come to the Nigerian people and indeed the world. That I can say is really the situation as it is now.
All right, Kabir, we have this delegation that went quickly to find out the situation on ground. What do you expect to hear from them?
I had expected that a crisis management unit, department, or center will be created where all the various arms of government will, on a 24-hour basis, sit down, assess the situation, and then be giving information out to the Nigerian public. That's how the international best practices at the level of government, at the level of corporate organizations. We have a crisis in our hand. A cabinet visit by 2 ministers, even though we're told 3, at the end of the day I saw 2. That's not enough, unfortunately. And then the information that has come out even after that team visited, at least going by the public statement issued by the Minister of Information, did not really help the situation. Like my co-panelist mentioned, we're still at a position where we do not know the number of girls that were taken. The level of confidence between the people and the government has not been helped by any way by the visit of this cabinet.
All right, let's go back to Dapchi community, and I'm coming back to you, Dr. Abari. You are from that area. Could you give us an insight into that area, the geography, the life of the people? What is that area like?
I think Dapchi itself is nothing but reflective of the entire topography and the social setting of Yobe State. Essentially an agrarian state. Dapchi is one of the sub-local governments that constitute senatorial zone A. It is an agrarian community with all the people mostly, or most of them, engaged in animal rearing and farming activities. It is on the main route that links Damaturu, Tarmua local government, Bursari local government, which is which Dapchi is the capital, then leading up to the junction town of Baimari, and then it leads to the on the eastern part to Gaidam, and to Yunusari on the western part to Gashua, to Nguru, leading up to Kano. So it's actually a community, very peaceful, agrarian, peasant-based economy, and in terms of geography, it lies in the Sahel, so it is actually a dry land. It's a dry land because it is Sahelian. What you find is actually an expansive open space, an expansive open space, occasionally with some a little oasis here and there, and then leading up to the confluences of the river Yobe, the Kumaduga, and the Yobe River.
So we can imagine what life is like right now with this situation.
Actually, it is a very depressing situation for almost everybody there. Very depressing, because I want you to understand that this is a community that is agrarian, like I have said. It's just a closely knitted community. Very, very closely knitted. Almost everybody knows one another in that place. On the main road, Dapchi provides you actually with a semblance of a semi-urban setting, semi-urban setting, but it is not actually an urban setting. Very few areas you can call urban in Yobe. It's actually a very, very worrisome situation for everybody in that community, and you can see how, since the news broke out, how everybody had come to rally around one another, to commiserate, to give support, to sorrow over what is happening, and of course to pray for one another, and of course calling on each other to give succor. So this is actually the kind of setting we are talking about.
Right.
Now, the expansive nature of the environment, the Sahelian nature of the environment, I am prayerful that may certainly help in the efforts to locate these girls.
All right, Kapi, President Muhammad Buhari issued a statement this evening reassuring parents that government is doing everything possible to get these girls back, including sending more troops to the area and redeploying 24 hours air surveillance. How reassuring is this?
Well, he's the president, and quite a very popular president. So issuing such a statement is a very good step. It would definitely help, especially the parents, have hope. Because right now, what they need is hope. And if our president is giving us that reassurance, then we'll be hopeful. But beyond that reassurance, we would like to see a bit of more action. By now, I would have expected to see a register of the missing girls, quote and unquote. A head count was conducted in the school. Well, I believe if a head count was conducted, they were using a database, whatever it was, a register, name it whatever, but a register was used to conduct that head count, and on the basis of that, a number came up. Now, whether that number is correct or not, I know that the school has indicated that number, so we need to see names. What that does is that it improves confidence in the fact that the school is certain about the number of girls that are missing, and then by the time the girls start showing up, then people will be able to say, okay, yes, these are the part of the girls that were missing. My worry is that the Chibok situation is about to repeat itself. So yes, President Buhari has given us that reassurance. We need to see a bit more tangible effort. On the one hand, from the local community, the school in question, from the state government, and then more importantly from the federal government. I would like to see a situation where our neighbors, Niger and Cameroon, we use the diplomatic means available to us. Just recently we played a very critical role for Cameroon, to the extent that some international organizations were critical of our position. You recall when some dissidents were arrested and then they were repatriated. And that's a very good move by Nigeria. This is the time to bank on that move, get our neighboring countries together. The multinational joint task force is there so that the border area is well protected. The nearest local government to the border to Busari, it's I think Unisari, Gaidam and Unisari. I know a military operation took place in Gaidam. It's perhaps an indication that those people who took away the girls were sighted in Gaidam. If at all that's true, then it means they were heading towards a particular location. So we need our neighbors to live up to expectation, do the needy, block the border area so that they prevent them from going on. And this is where the federal government is. Like I said, a crisis center needs to be established, 24-hour crisis center where information and all the military operation, as well as the the managing of strategic information regarding this development is controlled at that crisis management center.
Dr. Barry, let's look at the families. This is a trying period for them. What kind of support should they be getting at this point?
Well, essentially, first and foremost, is reassurance. It's reassurance. And from that will come hope. Unlike what happened with the Chibok girls in 2014, when there was initial hesitation and then denial by the government of the time as to whether the girls were actually kidnapped or not, this time around, the reaction was prompt. The response was prompt. Both the government at the center and at the state levels and at the local government and the security agencies have all come together to address the situation. As for the parents, it's a very traumatizing period. But at moment like this, what you require actually is what is now being offered them. There are assurance from the government of 24-hour aerial surveillance. And like I have told you, the Sahelian nature of the environment, I hope, will help a great deal in trying to locate the girls. There are certain areas that the insurgents might perhaps, or the terrorists might perhaps find as a sanctuary. Do not forget that around Yunusari, Kanamo area, but the banks of the river Yobe, that was where the original Boko Haram started, when they started in 2002 as Yobe Taliban. That used to be their sanctuary. And because it is a place, it is a whole corridor that provides water and some level of moisture, it can sustain life. It can sustain life. And we have a sense, just like Kabir has said, that that entire stretch and the border between Nigeria and the Niger, and then our other neighbors where the multinational task force is operating, they will cordon up the area to ensure that first and foremost the girls remain in the country, remain in the territory. And in between that place, to say maybe some piece of forest is a long stretch, and before they could even reach there will be a big task because it is a desert environment. So we are hoping and praying that the parents will continue to be reassured. They too themselves will remain hopeful and prayerful, because at moments like this is what the parents need. We have seen this level of empathy from Nigerians, from the international community. It speaks volumes about our common humanity. And I have seen this actually expressed on both the conventional and the social media, in mosques and churches. I have had Nigerians praying, for God to give succor to the parents of these girls and to bring their trauma to an end. So I think this is something that we all should appreciate about our common humanity, about our Nigerianness. That in spite of everything, this country can always stand around one another when we are in distress.
All right. This is Nigeria Today. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue the discussion.
Coming up on NTA News 24, Nigeria Today, 7:30, Monday to Friday, with exciting anchors on topical issues. Inspirators, a search for those who inspire others. Business 24, a business magazine program. Late edition repackaged. Fresh and exciting programming on NTA News 24. Stay with us.
It's still Nigeria Today, and we're focusing on the developing situation with the missing Dapchi girls. Dr. Wari, we also know from stories we've heard and reports reaching us that this school was specifically targeted. I mean, what can be done to stop such targets and looking at schools within these areas to stop a reoccurrence?
Yeah, well, it could be. It could be specifically targeted. It could not be, because whatever it is, still now remains at the level of conjecture. But I was also commending the Yobe State government, because they have done a wonderful job of fencing all our schools. What they can, well, at least most of the schools that appear vulnerable had been fenced up, and a great deal actually is still being done. And I think the Yobe State government had done a good job in that direction. But you see, it is also in the nature of the terrorists that whenever they are down, as they are now, because I know that they are, having lived in Yobe and in Maiduguri, and of course my family still living in Maiduguri, I know what the insurgency period had been at its peak, and now that it has been degraded. So it is something actually that is in their character to say, since you have already declared us defeated, we would want to at least register that we are still around. And one of such way of doing it is actually to begin to hit at sub-targets. That's why you always hear of these incidences of bomb explosion in the market, or in the motor park, or in the mosques, where people actually are very difficult to screen. People are very difficult to isolate, this kind of thing. So, and if you look at the timing of the attack itself, it's about 6:30 in the evening, at the time when the entire attention was at the mosque, when almost all people in that community, or majority of the people in that community have gone to observe the late evening prayer. That was the time when that was the time of the attack. So it is not out of place to say that it was a targeted attack. But even if it is a targeted attack, the motive would have been to say we are still very much around, therefore not defeated as you have told the world we are, but of course we know that they have been defeated. Even if they have not been defeated, they have been substantially degraded. Coming from me that has seen the insurgency at its infancy, how it reached its crescendo, and how it is now coming down.
So, Kabir, what can our security agencies do to stay on top of their games?
Well, essentially, we need to protect our schools. No doubt about it. If we agree that education is, critical to our development, then we need to protect our schools. And I think I'll call on some level of accountability on the side of the government. The Presidential Committee on the Northeast Initiative that is handling the Safe Schools initiative, should come out and explain to Nigerians what it has done to the funds that was given to that initiative. Huge sums of money from 2014 to today, 2018. Like my co-panelist mentioned, Doctor, the Yobe State government has built fences around most of its schools, including the Dapchi Girls Secondary School. It was fenced. But just because you have a fence in a location doesn't mean the location is secure. There are several other factors that are required. Security involves about 3 components: the physical component, the systems, and as well as the processes, which includes the equipment that are required. One critical component that I think has come clear in the Dapchi incident is the absence of communication, rapid response system between the school perhaps and then the security forces in that environment.
Exactly. So, talking about the issue of communication, what should be the appropriate thing to do between both the local, state and the federal government at this point?
Let me give you a small story that happened more than 15 years ago. I went to Niger in a place close to Agadez. It's roughly almost 1,000 kilometers from Niamey. And this was, like I said, a couple of years ago, more than a decade ago, actually about 20 years ago. And the house I stayed in, which belonged to a parliamentarian, to my surprise, it had a fixed telephone line inside, 1,000 kilometers from the capital, Niamey. So we should not underestimate the importance of communication. Right now, there is a challenge of communication. There are some local governments in Borno State, I'm not sure of Yobe, Dr. will probably confirm this, but in Borno State, they use GSM lines from Cameroon to communicate in Nigeria. That's not acceptable, frankly. So there need to be massive investment in communication. Where that is not available, how much will it cost to buy satellite phones and give each school in that location? At least let somebody, a critical management staff of that school, have access to communication, in which case he or she can communicate with the Operation Lafia Dole Theater Command. That's one aspect. The other aspect, we are relying too much on the military component of the warfare. In military strategy, you take, you hold, and you build. The taking is done by the military. The holding and the building shouldn't be done by the military. In our case, right now, it is the military that is doing the taking, they are doing the holding, and they are doing the building. No, it's not acceptable. They are overstretched. So we need to see the police, we need to see the civil defense, and the several other components of civilian defense to support the military in the current counter-insurgency campaign. In the case of Dapchi, the police division, from what I'm told, it's very close to the school in question. So how come all of this happened and we've not seen a single statement from the police telling us what role they played in that regard?
All right, let me go quickly to Dr. Abari, talking about information gathering now. What should be the situation in Dapchi at the moment to support the security agencies?
I think the most important thing now is for stepped up vigilance and also for intelligence sharing. Unfortunately, the nature of the terrain is such that the intelligence sharing can only be done merely manually. Because like I have told you, it is a very rural community, in a very agrarian, and with settlements per flank from one another. So, but in spite of that, there will be a lot of information sharing, and it can go from a village to village, from ward to ward, And even from people can even, whenever they get some information that will be helpful, can either walk or on a used motorcycle, or even other conventional means of transport, donkeys and horses that are very commonly used in that area to pass on information. But it has to be manually done. We have to also improve on our use of modern technology.
All right.
Kabir has spoken about this. It's very, very important. Absolutely. And I think the general situation is quite a very unfortunate thing, and we hope that by the time we come back to talk about these things, we should always smile about it.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for joining us. This is Nigeria Today on NTA News 24 Abuja, and we have been discussing developments regarding the situation in Dapchi, and I have been speaking with the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Dr. Garba Abari, and our regular security risk management analyst, Kabir Adamu. Gentlemen, we want to thank you for joining us in the studio. Now, you can watch this edition of Nigeria Today and other programs online at www.youtube.com/NTA News 24 Home. I am Joy Osiago. Thank you for staying with us.